That's on David and sign at the top.
That's signed David.
Your name is John 7.
Yeah.
Good evening. We're going to begin the Borough Council Plum meeting for Monday, January 11th, 2021. Would you stand for the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mr. Thomas, roll call, please.
Certainly, Mr. Odom. Mr. Delaney?
Here.
Mr. Dern?
Here.
Mr. Doyle?
Here.
Mr. Hadley?
Here.
Mr. Odom?
Present.
Mr. Pastor?
Here.
Mr. Vento?
Here.
Mayor Schlegel?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, sir. Motion to approve the treasurer's report for the month of December.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Doyle.
Seconded.
Second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Motion to approve the expenses for the month of December.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Doyle.
Second.
Second by Mr. Hadley. Mr. Thomas, if you would, please.
Certainly. Payables from the general fund requiring council approval, $365,615.47. Fire fund payables requiring council approval, $168,529.85. Flood mitigation fund payables requiring council approval, $8,314.83. Emergency medical services fund payables requiring council approval, $1,770.54. 2019 bond fund payables requiring council approval, $156,543.40. Purchasing card direct vendor payments, Republic Services, $168,108.20. Miscellaneous borough purchases of $160 for a total payables to be approved of $869,042.29.
Having received a motion and a second, would you vote to approve the expenses for the month of December? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Motion to approve the minutes of the December 17th, 2020 council meeting minutes.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Dern, second by Mr. Doyle. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Recognition of achievements in the community. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. David, are you here?
I am, sir.
Well, come on up to the microphone. Dave Johnson.
That's my fan club.
Yeah, the only one I see.
It's bigger than yours.
David here has been doing something for the past 10 years, and it's high time that he gets recognized for it. The Certificate of Achievement is presented to David Johnson, whereas thoughtfulness and service to others is a hallmark of the American character and central to how we meet challenges. And whereas volunteering of an individual's time and resources is an essential part of the American spirit. And whereas it is even more in evidence in Plum Boro's greatest natural resources, its people. Whereas David Johnson is a shining example of this resource and deserving of our praise and gratitude. And whereas Dave unselfishly volunteered his time and money by providing Thanksgiving dinners to Plum Emergency and Police for 10 years. And whereas Dave exemplifies the volunteering community spirit that helped to build Plum Boro and demonstrated that it is alive and strong today. And whereas each year many citizens commit their time and talents to improve the quality of life to our entire community, few can achieve the degree of service, commitment, and generosity as David Johnson. Therefore, be it resolved that the mayor, the council, and police and EMS personnel, and the citizens of Plum Boro wish to honor and thank Dave Johnson for his wholehearted devotion to Plum Boro emergency personnel by sharing his time and money during the holiday. In so doing, I, Harry R. Schlegel, Mayor, call upon all citizens to help to renew and sustain the American spirit demonstrated by David Johnson in emulating his example and committing themselves to address the needs of Plum Boro through voluntary action. Signed this 11th day of January, 2021, Harry R. Schlegel, Mayor. David, thank you.
I don't actually know what to say after that.
Well, it's
That was,
suitable for framing.
that's not, I want you to write my epitaph. That was, my wife and I, my beautiful wife Heather, we've done this for a decade now. And everybody always says, this long. And I have to tell you honestly and truthfully, it's our honor and our privilege to do this for these guys. These guys are 24/7. We don't say enough thank yous, but boy, if we need something, we pick up that phone, they're there. The support that, this is great. I can't thank you enough for this. This is an honor, like I said. I can't believe that somebody would think that in detail of me. But truly, honestly, it's those guys that deserve the thank yous.
Well, Dave, you've done it quietly in the background for far too long. It's time you were recognized.
Well, I
Here is your
appreciate that, Mayor.
certificate, sir.
Thank you very much.
Oh, Dave, and by the way, my Corvette's been in the garage for 2 months now, and it won't come out until April.
I think we marked that on your policy.
Yeah, thank you. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Civic announcements.
Hi, my name's Pam Kalfa. I'm the new director at the Plum Library, and I just wanted to take a moment to introduce myself to all of you, give you a brief update on where the library is right now, and tell you how excited I am to be a part of the Plum community and be here with all of you today. Currently, the library is operating in curbside service, and it's going extremely well. Patrons have been extremely supportive of us during this time. We're going to continue virtual programming, some curbside crafts where people can come and grab craft kits for kids. We're going to also have some for our adults as virtual programming continues, but we're going to ramp some virtual programming up. We're going to continue to add brand new items to our collection, make sure we have items there that people want, and continue with curbside for the time being. But I want to let you all know if there's anything the library can do or help or partner with, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. And thank you all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Any other civic announcements? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to President's comments. I didn't have anything specific other than to notify people that the next Stormwater Task Force meeting will take place Thursday, January 21st. The task force is certainly looking forward to kicking off the new year with a number of the initiatives that we have been continuing from the previous year, and so we're excited to get started 2021 and then move forward with the initiatives that we have. Next on our agenda is citizen comments on agenda items. Did
No
we
one has
receive
signed
any?
up.
So we didn't receive any, and that takes us to council actions. Starting with Mr. Vento on behalf of the Planning and Economic Development Committee, sir.
Thanks, Mr. President. On behalf of the committee, I would like to accept the Palumbo Consolidation Plan FS-09-20 as complete.
We have a motion by Mr. Vento.
Second.
Second by Mr. Hadley. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Also, on behalf of the committee, I move to accept the UHA's Consolidation Plan FSC-08-20 as complete.
Motion by Mr. Vento.
Seconded.
Second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
On behalf of the committee, I would like to reapprove the Oakmont Heights Phase 2 Subdivision Plan SP-4-17-R as recommended by staff.
Motion by Mr. Vento.
Second.
Second by Mr. Doyle. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Also, on behalf of the committee, I move to approve the Oakmont Heights PRD revision, PRD-1-104-R-3 for Phase 3 as recommended by the Planning Commission.
Okay, that last motion carried, and now we have a motion by Mr. Vento.
Second.
Second by Mr. Doyle. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
On behalf of the committee, I move to approve preliminary/final development for Oakmont Heights Phase 3 contingent upon revisions to the lighting and signage issues recommended by the Planning Commission, as well as the final review and approval of the borough engineer.
Motion by Mr. Vento.
Seconded.
Second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And lastly, on behalf of the committee, I move to establish the borough's Agricultural Security Area Advisory Board, consistent with the Right to Farm Law of 1982.
Motion by Mr. Vento.
Second.
Second by Mr. Doyle. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
That's all I have, except to say that as far as this board goes, we will be calling, I guess I will be getting in contact with the borough president of council and talking with him about people that we would like to see on the advisory board. Other than myself, I am the chair, last I understood. So, but it is up to the borough council and council president to approve these people. So we'll try and get this going, I believe, in February, if that's okay with you, Mr. President.
Yes, sir, Mr. Vento. We do plan on appointing Mr. Vento as the chair for the Agricultural Security Area Advisory Board. We're extremely excited about this board, and we have discussed with a number of individuals who originally petitioned to have the board formed, looking to participate as members of the advisory board. So Mr. Vento will be working to get in touch with those individuals, and February sounds like a good time for him to get that started. So thank you, Mr. Vento. I appreciate that.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, moving on behalf of the Personnel and Management Committee, Mr. Hadley.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the Personnel and Management Committee, I move to advertise the 2021 meeting dates schedule as presented.
Motion by Mr. Hadley.
Seconded.
Second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
On behalf of the Personnel and Management Committee, I move to appoint Tom Tevis to the Civil Service Commission for a 6-year term expiring 12/31/26.
Motion by Mr. Hadley.
Second.
Second by Mr. Doyle. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
On behalf of the Personnel and Management Committee, I move to appoint Joseph Ditka Jr. to the Civil Service Commission for a 6-year term expiring 12/31/26.
Motion by Mr. Hadley.
Seconded.
Second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
On behalf of Personnel and Management Committee, I move to appoint Laura Mason to the Library Board for a 3-year term expiring 12/31/23.
Motion by Mr. Hadley.
Second.
Second by Mr. Pastor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
On behalf of the committee, I move to appoint Elizabeth Peckney to the Library Board for a 2-year term expiring 12/31/22.
Motion by Mr. Hadley.
Seconded.
Second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I move to appoint Mary Kenny to the Library Board for a 3-year term expiring 12/31/23.
Motion by Mr. Hadley.
Second.
Second by Mr. Pastor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
On behalf of the Personnel Committee, I move to appoint Jay Adams to the Municipal Authority for a 5-year term expiring 12/31/25.
Motion by Mr. Hadley.
Second.
Second by Mr. Doyle.
Either one of
All
us.
those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
On behalf of the Personnel Committee and Personnel and Management Committee, I move to appoint Jim Stesick to the Municipal Authority to a 5-year term expiring 12/31/25.
Motion by Mr. Hadley.
Seconded.
Second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
On behalf of the Personnel Committee, I move to appoint Greg Magnus to the Planning Commission for a 4-year term expiring 12/31/24.
Motion by Mr. Hadley.
Second.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
On behalf of the Personnel Committee, I move to appoint David Seitz to the Planning Commission for a 4-year term expiring 12/31/24.
Motion by Mr. Hadley.
Seconded.
Second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And we're going to table the last appointment for the Planning Commission until the next meeting.
You should still move to table the item.
I'm sorry, my
Just move
apologies.
to table the item. then.
I move to table the item.
Item
So we have a motion to table the
17.
item
Item
for
17.
the vacant position on the Planning Commission.
I'll second.
Second by, so we have a motion by Mr. Hadley, second by Mr. Vento. All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Doyle, would you like to make this motion, please?
I would love to, thank you. Let me find it on my pad here. Yes, I move to appoint Mr. Dan Laird to the Zoning Hearing Board for a 5-year term expiring 12/31/25.
Motion by Mr. Doyle,
I'll second that.
second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
On behalf of the Personnel and Management Committee, I move to appoint Paul Freeze to the Vacancy Board for a 1-year term expiring 12/31/21.
We have a motion by
I'll
Mr. Hadley,
Seconded.
Second.
second by Mr. Vento. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And that is all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Hadley. And on behalf of the Roads, Equipment, and Grounds Committee, Mr. Pastor.
Thank you, Mr. Odom. On behalf of the Roads, Equipment, and Grounds Committee, I move to authorize the Borough Manager to negotiate an agreement of sale for the property known as Center Beach.
Motion by Mr. Pastor,
Second.
second by Mr. Hadley. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
On behalf of Roads, Equipment, and Grounds Committee, I move to accept the proposal from HRG for MS4 Consulting Services.
Motion by Mr. Pastor,
Seconded.
I'll second.
second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
That's it.
That concludes our council actions. Moving on with our agenda, the mayor's report. Mayor Slagle.
Thank you, Mr. Odom. Last month, we had 673 calls for service by our uniform officers, and that's about a 9.5% reduction from the previous month. And we're moving forward with phase 2 of our special project, which is the body cams for our police officers. Additional officers are being added. Several technical issues were discovered, and they're being worked out with the assistance of Jason Mugley, our IT director. And the body cams will be given to the all of the shift supervisors at this point. And we have a number of thoughtful citizens, and again, I did not receive a call for any of these to come down and have coffee and partake of some of the goodies these people were given. We need to put a scale back there, people. There was one that I really want to thank and that is John Hadeen of Hadeen Electric. John has been, his company, his son, they've been working with the borough many years in donating their services to the community. Well, John had contacted me, and we came down and to the chief. And this was on the 23rd of December. John had a train set, a Lionel train set that has never been out of the box, and it was a Thomas the Tank Engine train. And he offered it to the police department to, if they wanted to sell and make a donation of the proceeds to a community bank, a food bank, or whatever. Chief Conley contacted Brian at the EMS, and Brian found a family, young mother, recently widowed, 3 small children, and they received a Thomas the Tank Engine train for Christmas. So again, Mr. Hadeen came through and very generous on his behalf, and I think I'd like to thank him, and his council would as well. Now to the food. Rischuti Enterprises delivered a large fruit basket for the police department during Christmas. Larry and Cheryl Wenzel delivered to the police department individual care packages for every officer. The care package included a police Christmas tree ornament and an assortment of goodies. Mark, Jackie, and Wyatt Schaefer gifted the Plum Police Department with a Christmas card and a handmade wooden sign depicting the American flag with a thin blue line, and that was very much appreciated by all the officers. Gerald Miller of Brooks Towing provided a large cookie tray, notepads, and pens to the police department for the holiday season. Again, this month, Pat and Stan Kazmarski delivered 2 large cupcake trays and a Christmas card to the police department. Gentlemen, you see where they're going? Did anybody get a call to come down and partake of all these goodies at Christmas? Nope. Daniel Crowley and his dog Munchie came to the police station and delivered a Christmas card. Sergeant Capusta and Officer Rupert assisted Plum EMS at the Crowley residence for his wife who was suffering from COVID-19 complications. And unfortunately, Mrs. Crowley succumbed to her illnesses. And Sergeant Dubinsky was tasked with notifying Mr. Crowley that his wife had passed away. And on the 24th of December, a thoughtful citizen dropped off 2 dozen donuts. Isn't that appropriate for the police? Donuts? To the police lobby. And the person left an unsigned card. So whoever that individual was, thank you, and it was very appropriate. Donuts to the police. And last but not least, Mark Reed made 2 trips to the police department during the month of December. And during the first trip, Mark delivered a cheesecake. And again, gentlemen, we didn't get any from the Oakmont Bakery. And on the second trip, Mark delivered cookies and candy canes for the officers. And finally, Officer Eric Brandt has completed his probationary period as of December 30th, and he owes me a set of training wheels that I gave him. So with that, we have, and I guess we have one more officer going through probationary and he should be up, I think it's in June. So right now, we're at full force. And that's all I have, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, moving on to committee reports. The Intergovernmental Cooperative Committee with the Plum School District. I haven't been contacted by anyone from the school district. I don't know if Mr. Vento has heard anything, but right now I don't think we have any plans for a meeting.
Yeah, I haven't heard of it either.
Okay, then that takes us to the Finance Committee. Mr. Doyle.
Thank you, Mr. President. I received this report today with a big disclaimer on the top of it. You'll see it's even highlighted for me, so I didn't miss it. This report is for informational purposes. The year-to-date amounts do not include all final year-end accruals of revenues and expenditures and are unaudited amounts. So with that said, the general fund highlights for the month of December 2020. The borough recognized revenues totaling $761,141,000 and incurred expenditures in the amount of $1,734,906. Regarding the revenues, a total of $49,810 was received under the current year real estate tax revenues, and we're at 100% of the budget. The borough also received $379,396 under earned income tax revenues, and for the year, we are favorable to budget by approximately $40,000. The deed transfer tax revenue line ended the year at 118% of the budget, which is favorable to the budget by about $64,000. Unaudited revenues are at 101% of the budget, or approximately $13.59 million. Regarding expenditures through the month of December, the borough has expended 97% of the budget, or approximately $12.97 million. Unaudited expenditures were favorable to the budget by $335,210. Projected general fund surplus. Council adopted a 2020 budget with a $56,022 surplus. Unaudited surplus projections with known year-end revenues and expense accruals is approximately $616,000. That's some good news, gentlemen. And the 2020 independent audit is scheduled to begin on January 22nd and will be performed by Mauro Druschel. And that ends my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Doyle. Roads, Equipment, and Grounds, Mr. Pastor.
Thanks, Mr. Odom. The Jane Street Garlow Boulevard Emergency Stormwater Project has been completed for the most part. The street crossings will be asphalted, weather permitting, and there will be some minor yard restoration done in the spring. The East Oakmont Stormwater Project has begun. We've completed work on the south side of Halton Road. The contractor was stopped, though, from completing the work on the other side of Halton Road by the property owner due to a right-of-way dispute. This will affect the outcome of the project. The Holiday Park Phase 1 Stormwater Project has been completed. This job went smoothly with very little complaints from the residents. We will be working with engineering for Phase 2 of this project, and hopefully we can go out the bid by March or April. Road maintenance updates for the month of December. Leaf collection ended on December 1st due to the first snowfall of the winter. We removed the old fuel tank at the old Public Works garage in November. The soil samples taken by the environmental group came back negative for contamination. We used that soil to fill the area where the tank was removed. Winter road maintenance resulted in a total of 473.75 hours of overtime. We used approximately 1,800 tons of salt. We trimmed trees overhanging the cartway to reduce damage to plow trucks. We did minor maintenance on the Mary Street Bridge. This was brought to our attention by STV Engineering after their mandatory inspection by PennDOT. We will begin patching potholes with cold patch material. We repaired numerous mailboxes due to damage from the heavy snow coming off of the plows. And we installed public awareness decals to inlets that states that the water going into the inlet drain to streams. This is part of the MS4 project. And we installed new street signs where necessary. End of report.
Thank you, Mr. Pastor. Public Safety, Mr. Dern.
Thank you, Mr. Odom. Before I give the floor to Mr. Maloney for his EMS report, I want to jump on the mayor's bandwagon here to give our police a big round of applause. There were two instances. One was a fire several days ago on Frontenac up in Ramparts. And actually Sergeant Dubinsky, Officer Rupert, and Officer DeMarco were involved in rescuing somebody out of the burning building. And they did it off of a ladder, and they did it up off the ground. And it was pretty remarkable, and we're working on getting accommodations for them. And also there was an accident last week on the midnight shift between Boys Park Village and New Texas Road. And someone that I know lives there, Patrick Clancy, he bought a gift card to give to the midnight shift that responded. They did his words, they did such a terrific job at getting everything under control that he wanted to give them a gift card so they could buy some pizzas for their lunch. So, you know, again, that's our police department out there serving Plum and doing a great job. Mr. Maloney.
All right, thank you very much, Councilman Dern. Speaking of that fire that occurred the other day, it was actually amazing. Talk about a community coming together. CJ Campbell, one of our EMTs, assisted the police who led that rescue. Also the neighbors. There was neighbors that lived next door that brought over ladders and an axe, which they used to break out the window. There was a PA from Forbes Hospital from across the street that worked hand in hand with the police as well. And the neighbor next to her, the person that lived in that house, who is a nurse at UPMC East, also helped rendered initial care with the EMS crew. So once again, that community coming together to help each other in the time of need, I almost cried. So I do have names of everybody, so if you are working on awards and everything in recognition, these are people who truly deserve it. Good group of people. So Brian Maloney, Director of Operations, Plum EMS. As always, I greatly appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. For the month of December, we ended up running a total of 286 responses, and that put for the year 2020 at 2,020 responses. I didn't work that one out, but that worked out pretty good, and we ended up transporting just under 1,700 of those patients to the hospital. And so we had a steady last quarter. Throughout the year, though, we certainly did hit record lows, and at one point in time, down 42% of our normal transports, and that's where our revenue comes in. It's good in the sense that people weren't going to the hospital in a way, but at the same time, it did have an impact on us. However, we continued to move forward, keeping our heads up and making sure we know where we're going. We ended up responding to local communities or outside of Plum 30 times last month, with 19 of those patients transported to the hospital. And we needed mutual aid to come into Plum 13 times, which is about 5% of the times EMS was needed to come into Plum. Throughout December, even though there was a lot of restrictions, there are still people who needed assistance with securing car seats or assisting car seats being installed. We ended up doing 6 of those throughout the month, and we actually gave out 2 free car seats throughout the month as well. So it's the kind of thing that we're more than happy to do for folks. All they have to do is call and make an appointment. And I've talked about before, we also give away free cribs through Cribs for Kids. This is a bed for anyone less than 1 year of age. It's a safe place for them to sleep. We're a big proponent on trying to help the community out with that. We've also had, in December, and we actually just finished it now, we secured funding through the Assistant to Firefighter Grant Program for an exhaust extraction system for our station in the garage. It's hoses that are connected to the exhaust pipes, and so when we turn the vehicles on, it automatically kicks in, works as a vacuum, gets all that exhaust out of the garage. Before, we would be setting off CO alarms. We'd have an exhaust system that worked in there, but this is phenomenal. It'll help take better care of our employees. And then beginning probably in the early February, we're also starting our subscription drive. So everyone will receive items by mail, which you could also sign up online. Subscriptions, $15 for an individual, $25 for a family, and $40 as a business or commercial. And once again, those prices are phenomenal, and we're only able to keep those prices because of the support from the community and what all of you have done for us. So we appreciate it, and there's a lot of benefits with that subscription. In a sense, they give 6 free lift assists throughout the year, so if somebody falls down and maybe that person can't get up or a family member has a tough time getting him or her up, they can call 911. We show up. Traditionally, that's a $75 fee that we do that free 6 times throughout the year. The other big thing is if you are transported to the hospital, after we bill your insurance, whatever is remaining, or if you have a deductible or a copay, we cut that by 50%. So in a sense, that $25 for the family, and I sound like a Geico commercial or something, can save you hundreds of dollars. But that's not an overstatement. It helps out, and it helps us out as well. It gives us finances in the beginning of the year to help continue throughout the year. So any questions, comments, gripes, concerns, complaints?
The only thing I have, Brian, if you would send me an email with the names that you had mentioned of the people, and what role they play, please.
I'll do that.
I'd like to work on I got to work on the accommodations for the next month.
I would
Thank
love
you.
to do that. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. That's it, Mr. Odom. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Dean. Planning and Economic Development, Mr. Vento.
Thank you, Mr. President. This month, the Planning and Economic Development Report for December 2020. Financial summary is there were 105 permits issued at $16,882.50 in revenue. Planning Commission held a virtual meeting on December 17th. The following cases were discussed. St. John's parking lot expansion, 2 issues with the Oakmont Heights development that were approved tonight. Another issue with MAP machines, request for preliminary land development. Veltri Kitchen Italian Kitchen had 2 separate requests. And on Pearson Run Road, a place of worship requested a final land development for construction of an addition. The zoning hearing board did not meet in December. And staff had developed meetings and conference calls with various individuals, some related as diverse as developers, property owners, and our engineering company to discuss plans for housing developments. There were no housing plan issues this month. There's nothing to report this month on borough property-related issues, which is a good thing. Utility and right-of-way issues, they're all GIS work-related, and the upgrade is quickly becoming, as I can read by these things, they're becoming completed, so that's good to know. We had some code enforcement issues. They addressed 18 code violations for garbage, junk, and debris, occupancy issues, vacant structures, and abandoned vehicles. So those are never going to go away completely. The staff worked also with a contractor removing asbestos for 3 houses that are to be demolished. Demolition should proceed in January. There were no ordinance issues. And miscellaneous items, the staff did work on reviewing the agricultural security area, the ASA that we also approved the board formation for earlier. And that's it for this month. So thank you very much, Mr. President, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Vento. Parks and Recreation, Mr. Delaney.
Thank you, Mr. President. Not too much going on in Parks and Rec. The big thing I want to let everybody know is that there was a pre-construction meeting held at the park to discuss the Retton Park project, as well as the start date. Fingers crossed, weather permitting, that project should start any day. The other update I wanted to give, and I thank Paul Dern for reminding about this, we had a cash bash that was benefiting small businesses a few months ago. He had inquired about what had happened with all the money that we had raised. So I reached out to the Plum Chamber of Commerce. Turns out that they were very ecstatic with everything that we did for them. Starting in February, they're going to be running Facebook ads for an entire year. Each month will feature about 4 to 5 businesses with a small blurb written about them. So please, us fellow Facebook users, you're going to see these ads, see these businesses. Please share them. Please like them. Please do everything we can to get this ad revenue out there to really spread the word about supporting small businesses. And because the last Cash Bash was such a success, we're in the process of busy planning another event, hopefully held sometime February, March, to support small businesses again. And that would be it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Delaney. And that concludes our committee reports. We'll now transition to the next item on the agenda, which is to announce that the Planning Commission will meet January 18th. And now we have citizen comments on non-agenda items.
We have
Anyone
nobody
signed?
signed up.
Okay. Seeing none, we'll transition to the last item on the agenda, which is for the good of Plum. I did want to make mention of one item, and it has to do with the borough phone tree. The borough has implemented a new phone tree, which is now online, and the system uses a structure when you call into the borough that allows you to select an option to get to a particular menu section based on the area that you may want to get information on. For example, if you press 1, you'll go to the permits and inspections segment of the menu. Press 3, you'll get sanitation. Press 5, road hazards. 6, police services. 7, borough HAPs. Now, for those of you who may be concerned that you're not going to speak to an individual, that is not the case. When you select the option, you'll be dropped into a submenu where you can press an extension and actually talk to an individual. For example, if you press 4504, you'll get someone for building and zoning permits. If you go to 4603, you would get trash and recycling. 4371, you could report a deer or down trees or power lines. So all of these modifications and the new structure that we put in place in the phone tree is really to facilitate you getting to the individual that you need to speak to in the most expeditious manner possible. So we really appreciate the work that the borough staff put in place to implement that phone tree, and all of this is for the good of Plum. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Dern, second by Mr. Doyle. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We are adjourned.